Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let us continue with our tafsir of Surah An-Nisaa bihawlillahi wa quwwatih. We are on ayah number 53. قال الله تعالى أم لهم نصيب من الملك فإذا لا يؤتون الناس نقيرا. He asked the question, do they have a nasib, a share of the mulk, of the dominion, that is to say the dominion of the heavens and the earth? فَإِذًا, then in that case they would not give الناس, the people, نقيرا, which is a speck on a date stone. This ayah is talking about the Yahud, because you'll remember the previous few ayat are talking about the Yahud as well, so it's the same context. And the question is of course not a question of inquiry, it is an istifham inkari, to negate that which is being asked, meaning to say, of course they do not have any share in the dominion. So the question is, what is the point of this question? What is it actually getting at? You remember in the previous ayah where the Yahud said that the mushrikun are more guided than the Muslimin. Allah Jalla wa Ala is saying here, who made the Yahud in charge, such that the mushrikun feel the need to ask the Yahud as to who is more guided? Who made the Yahud in charge of these matters? Who is guided, who is not guided? Do the Yahud have any share in the dominion? Do they have any rububiyyah, such that they can decide what is guidance and what is not guidance? The answer is obviously no. And on the hypothetical that they did have some share in the dominion, they would not give anything of the dominion to the people. So reflecting on this ayah, the main lesson to take is that Allah Jalla wa Ala is telling us that the Yahud are the stingiest of people. And He uses the word naqir, which is a speck on a date stone, as an exaggeration and emphasis that these people will not give you even a speck on the date stone. So in this ayah, He describes the Yahud as bukhala, stingy. And in the previous ayah, He described them as foolish, because they declared that the mushrikun are more guided than the Muslimin. Let's take a look at ayah number 54. أَمْ يَحْسُدُونَ النَّاسَ عَلَى مَا آتَاهُمْ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ فَقَدْ آتَيْنَا آلَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَآتَيْنَاهُمْ مُلْكًا عَظِيمًا. He says which normally means or in a question form, but in certain contexts can mean bal, meaning nay. Here it means bal. يحسدون الناس, meaning to say nay, rather they have hasad of the people, so they envy the people. An-Nas, the people, here refers to the Arab, not the whole of mankind. So the Yahud have hasad against the Arab. Why? عَلَى مَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ, because Allah has given them, meaning the Arab, from His fadl, from His grace. What is this fadl or the grace referring to? It's referring to prophethood, because Muhammad ﷺ was from the Arab. And the Yahud did not like this. They wanted the Prophet to be from their lineage, which is Banu Israel. So that comes from the lineage of Ya'qub ﷺ, who is Israel. So they cannot take that there is a Prophet from the Arab. They will simply not stand for it. Even if it is the truth, they will not accept it. And as for hasad, we spoke about this before. Most scholars say that hasad means when you want a ni'mah to be removed from another person. And another opinion is that hasad is simply you disliking that another person should have a ni'mah. And then he says, فَقَدْ, we have already, so it's the perfect tense, given the al of Ibrahim, meaning to say his progeny, al-kitab, which means the scripture, such as for example Dawood alayhi having the Zabur, and Isa alayhi with the Injil. These are the famous ones. Musa alayhi with the Torah, and there are other scriptures that we do not know of. وَالْحِكْمَةَ, and wisdom. The wisdom referred to here is prophethood, because of course prophethood is wisdom. Every prophet is a wise man. And we gave them a mulkan aziman, a great dominion. Okay, what is this great dominion referring to? Dawood alayhi salam was a king, and he owned a great dominion. His son Sulaiman alayhi salam, both of course from Banu Israel, and both are accepted by the Yahud. He had of course a great dominion, as is well known, and a dominion he had would be never seen again, with the things that he controlled, from the winds and the jinn and ability to speak to animals. It is a dominion which is one of its kind. So he's basically saying that there were prophets from Banu Israel who had prophethood and scripture, and they had many privileges like this as well, just like the prophet has the privilege of being able to marry many wives. Well, Dawood alayhi salam married even more wives than Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam had yet more wives. So the question is being asked, where's the sense in having hasad when your own prophets had a greater dominion than the last prophet? They had more wives than the last prophet. So there was grace given to the people of Banu Israel as well. So both nations, both from the lineage of Ishaq and the lineage of Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam, they were both given these privileges of prophethood. There is simply no need to be jealous. It's not like only Banu Ismail were given all the grace and the Banu Ishaq were not given anything. It's not like that, is it? So this is the point of the ayah. As for this word al, meaning family, it can also mean followers as well. Then we ask, what's the difference between al and ahl, which has literally the same meaning? It can mean family, it can also mean followers as well. What the grammarian Al-Kasai says is that the word al is used for important people, and the word ahl is used for less important people. So for example, you can have al Muhammad, because Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is an important person, obviously, but you would not have al-Hajjam, the al of the cupper, because hijama is cupping, and that's a lowly type of work, or low status work. But then one might ask, Allah Jalla wa Ala talks about Fir'aun, and Fir'aun was an evil person, was he not? They would say yes, he was an evil person, but with respects to this dunya, he had a great dominion, and he was looked up to. So from that angle, he was an important person, as he wielded much dominion and power and authority. So reflecting on this ayah, Allah Jalla wa Ala describes the Yahud with hasad. So in this ayah, it is hasad. In the previous ayah, it was bukhl. And in the ayah before that, he was describing them with jahl, even though he did not use that word, but he did describe them as being foolish, in that they decided that the mushrikun are more guided than the Muslimin. So these descriptions obviously are rebuke worthy, and much does Allah Jalla wa Ala rebuke the Yahud in the Quran. We also find the evil quality of hasad, as Allah Jalla wa Ala speaks of it in a negative sense. We find that anyone from the Muslimin who has hasad, then he has a resemblance to the Yahud. So we need to inspect ourselves inwardly. Do we feel any hasad towards anyone? If we do, then we need to change ourselves and mold ourselves and fashion ourselves in the correct way. And one good way of removing hasad is to do the opposite. So if you feel hasad towards someone, make dua for them and speak positively about them. Do the opposite of what your hasad is urging you to do. You treat a malady with its opposite. And the greatest victim of your envy and jealousy is none other than you yourself. Also, one needs to learn to be comfortable with the qadr of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Even if one does not understand the wisdom behind it, one realizes that there is always goodness in the qadr of Allah. And that if reality pans out the way you want it to pan out, then what do you know? That its results could be even worse than what you are experiencing now. We also learn that Allah Jalla wa Ala is the Rabb, because He grants His favors, which includes prophethood, scriptures, and understanding of the deen and guidance. He grants all of this and more to whomsoever He wills, and He is unique in this regard. And we have ayah 55. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ آمَنَ بِهِ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ صَدَّ عَنْهُ وَكَفَى بِجَهَنَّمَ سَعِيرًا. So he says, فَمِنْهُمْ, meaning from the Yahud, there are those who آمَنَ بِهِ, believed in him referring to Muhammad ﷺ, such as the famous companion Abdullah ibn Salam and other than him. And from them were those who صَدَّ عَنْهُ, which means أَعْرَضَ عَنْهُ, turned away from the message. And he says, وَكَفَى بِجَهَنَّمَ. This verb has preceded kafa, meaning sufficient. The ba does not need to be there. You could just say kafa jahannama sa'iran, sa'ir meaning burning or a fire. So sufficient is jahannam or hell as a fire or a burning, meaning burning the disbelievers. Sa'iran is mansub bil fatha because it is a tamyiz. It tells you in which way jahannam is sufficient. So reflecting on this ayah, we find the balance and justice of Allah Jalla wa'ala in that He acknowledges that from the Yahud are those who accepted the deen. So He gives credit where credit is due, even though those who accepted the deen were only a minority. And it would be easy to just overlook them because they're just a small minority and who cares. But rather Allah Jalla wa'ala does not overlook any goodness, even if it comes from the Yahud. So there were from the Yahud those who embraced al-Islam, but most did not because they're rebellious. And we also take the punishment of the fire. It is real, it exists, and that the disbelievers will be the one who will be punished therein. هذا والله أعلم.